be, do, have. 3 words, simple yet incredibly powerful. But most people are living their lives in the exact opposite order. That is, have, do, be. They chase what they want to have. They believe that once they have the money, the opportunities, the recognition, or the relationship, then they will finally do better things with their lives, and only after that, they imagine they will finally be confident, fulfilled, peaceful, or successful. But think about that for a second. If that worked, wouldn't more people already be successful? The truth is, it doesn't work. Because it is difficult to succeed by chasing outcomes while neglecting identity or ignoring the person you are becoming. Which is why the correct order has always been be, then do, then have. First, you become the person. Then you act like that person. And eventually, you receive the results that person produces. This pattern appears throughout life, in leadership, in personal growth, and even in spiritual teachings. In fact, even the Bible reflects this principle clearly. In Genesis 1:28, it says, God blessed them and said to them, Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, and every creature that crawls upon the earth. Notice the order. Be fruitful comes first, then the actions follow. Multiply, fill, subdue, rule. The results are not commanded. They are implied as the outcome of being and doing correctly. Now let's go back to the beginning of the verse again. Be fruitful. That is where everything begins. Not with having, not even with doing, but with being. To be fruitful is not about results you already see. It is about the kind of person you become. It means adopting a nature of growth, a mindset of productivity, and a standard of creating value. Notice, the instruction is not have fruit. It is be fruitful first, which means before anything shows up externally, something must be established internally, because identity is the foundation. Even Proverbs 23:7 says, As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Notice the emphasis, not what he owns, not what he achieves, but what he is within. Because who you are internally will always shape what you do externally, and what you repeatedly do will eventually determine what you have. So if you want to change your life, you must start where real change begins. You must start with be. Everything begins there. Your identity is the foundation of your entire life. The way you see yourself determines the way you behave, and the way you behave determines the results you create. A person who believes they are disciplined behaves differently from someone who believes they lack discipline. A person who believes they are capable behaves differently from someone who believes they are powerless. And a person who believes they are responsible for their life behaves differently from someone who believes life simply happens to them. Identity drives behavior, and behavior produces outcomes. That is why be must always come first, because if the identity is wrong, the actions will never be consistent. You may try for a while, push yourself temporarily, but eventually, you will fall back to the person you believe you are. This is why lasting success always requires an internal transformation before an external one. The inner world must change before the outer world does. Your mindset must shift before your life shifts. Your identity must evolve before your circumstances evolve. This is why some people suddenly change their lives in powerful ways, not because they simply changed their actions, but because they changed who they believed themselves to be. They stopped seeing themselves as victims, as powerless, or as limited by their past. Instead, they began to see themselves as responsible, capable, disciplined, and determined. Once that identity changes, their behavior begins to follow, because people naturally act in alignment with who they believe they are. When someone believes they are disciplined, they protect their time. When someone believes they are responsible, they take ownership of problems. And when someone believes they are capable, they attempt things others are afraid to try. This is why James Allen wrote in As a Man Thinketh. You are today where your thoughts have brought you. You will be tomorrow where your thoughts take you. Your thoughts shape your being or identity. Your identity shapes your actions, and your actions shape your results. That is the chain reaction of success. But identity alone is not enough, because the second part of the formula must follow: do. Let's go back to Genesis 1:28, and this time move forward. It says, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish of the sea." Do you see what happens next? After being fruitful, action follows. Multiply, fill, subdue, rule. Notice how each of these actions, multiplying, filling, subduing, flows directly from being fruitful. They are expressions of that identity in motion. So once you become or decide who you are becoming, your actions must begin to reflect that identity. Your behavior must align with your beliefs, because action is the bridge between who you are and what you will eventually achieve. Without action, identity remains only an idea. But when identity produces action, momentum begins to build. Your habits start to change, your priorities start to shift, your daily decisions begin to improve, and those small actions, repeated consistently, start to compound over time. This is why Aristotle observed, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Success is not built in a single moment. It is built through consistent behavior, repeated again and again. Small disciplines practiced daily, small improvements accumulated over time. Every successful person you admire reached their position through repeated action. They practiced when others rested, studied when others relaxed, and persisted when others quit. But here is something important to understand. They were able to take those actions because of who they believed they were becoming. Their identity fueled their discipline, and their beliefs fueled their persistence. That is exactly what the Bible emphasizes in James 2:17. Faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. So belief must be accompanied by action. Conviction must produce behavior, because true belief always expresses itself through what you do. When someone truly believes they are responsible for their future, they act accordingly. When someone believes they are capable of growth, they pursue improvement. And when someone believes they are called to achieve something meaningful, they begin to work toward it. Their actions become evidence of their identity, and their discipline becomes evidence of their belief. And slowly, results begin to appear. Which brings us to the final part of the formula: have. This is where outcomes show up, the visible rewards of effort, opportunities, achievements, recognition, financial stability, influence, and freedom. Now let's go back to Genesis 1:28. Notice that the outcomes are not commanded, because realistically, results cannot be commanded. They emerge. They unfold naturally as a consequence of what comes before. So we can understand the have in Genesis 1:28 as the flourishing state of creation, growth, expansion, and order, which we are blessed to cultivate and, in a sense, enjoy as part of our God-given role. But always remember this: results are never the starting point. They are always the result of the first two stages. First identity, then action, then outcome. Just like planting and harvesting. No farmer expects a harvest before planting seeds. No builder expects a house before laying the foundation. No athlete expects victory without training. In the same way, success follows a natural sequence. You become the person, you perform the actions, and then the results appear. This is why chasing results directly often leads to frustration. People chase money without becoming valuable. They chase recognition without developing skill. They chase success without building discipline. And when results do not come quickly, they become discouraged. But those who understand the formula think differently. They focus on who they are becoming, the habits they are building, and the actions they repeat daily. And over time, the results begin to appear, almost naturally. As Galatians 6:7 says, "Whatever a man sows, that will he also reap." Life responds to what you plant. If you plant discipline, you eventually harvest achievement. If you plant growth, you harvest opportunity. If you plant persistence, you harvest progress. Because outcomes are always connected to what came before them. This is why the be, do, have formula is so powerful. It shifts your focus from chasing results to building the person who produces those results. It reminds you that the real work begins inside. The moment you begin to see yourself differently, your behavior begins to change. And the moment your behavior changes, your future begins to change. So instead of asking only what you want to have, ask a more powerful question. Who must I become? Because the life you want is connected to the person you are becoming. Once that identity becomes clear, the actions follow. And when those actions are repeated consistently, the results become unavoidable. Success stops feeling like luck and starts looking like a process that begins with identity, moves through action, and ends with results. Be, do, have. 3 simple words. But when applied correctly, they become a blueprint for transformation. So begin with who you are becoming. Strengthen your mindset. Raise your standards. Commit to growth. Then let your actions reflect that identity every single day. Work, learn, improve, persist, and allow the results to arrive as the natural outcome of the person you have chosen to become. Because when the identity is right and the actions are consistent, the results will follow. If this message resonated with you, give this video a like and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you're serious about growth, transformation, and building a life that truly reflects your potential, subscribe for more. Thank you for watching. And remember, be the person, do the work, and the results will follow.